waste from the tsunami and radioactive stuff and taking it to towns all over Japan and incinerating it in incinerators. And they're taking the ash, radioactive ash, and putting it in the harbour in Tokyo where the athletes are going to swim. Next. Well, this is what happens to tomatoes. So I don't know, I don't think there's much else I need to say. I think probably, oh yeah, I do need to say one more thing. What time is it? Well, Will gave a magnificent speech. This is a country that has socialised killing and capitalistic medical care. To hell with you, but it's really good for the military-industrial complex to take all your tax dollars, over $1 trillion a year for killing. The Pentagon is about murder, and I'm going to write a book called Why Men Kill and Why Women Let Them, because we're wimps. And I want to look at the real etiology or cause of the killing. You know, is it the reptilian midbrain and all sorts of stuff, and hormone receptors and Jungian archetypes, and, you know, the church and how many millions of people were killed in the 20th century in the name of God, or how many people have been killed in the name of God. I mean, you know, it's so ridiculous. I don't think there's a God anyway, but that's my personal opinion. I'm a pantheist. I worship nature. I worship evolution and human beings. But I've lost the, yeah. So the Pentagon, you know, who runs the Pentagon is Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Boeing. And I once called Route 128 America's death highway, and it is. You know, you pass all these blasted corporations who are just ripping money off you, and it's great because you can make plans, and if they crash during the war, then you have to make another plan. So war is very important, and that's why the Pentagon were very keen to go in and bomb the hell out of Syria when there are 3 million refugees already. Can you imagine families being rooted up and their children, and they're getting polio now? I mean, it is just hideous. In Iraq, what America did in Iraq is hideous. The sewage in the streets, the electricity doesn't work properly. Now there are people blowing people up all the time in the markets and stuff. Under Hussein and under, in Libya, Gaddafi, the two countries in the Middle East, before America interfered, had the lowest infant mortality rate and the highest rate of literacy. How dare America go into those other countries and say they're the world's policeman? Who does America think it is? The world's policeman? No. Exceptionalism? I say you're not the greatest country on earth. What about Australia? We've got kangaroos. No? But it's just this crazy. And then after 9/11, I was here. I'd just flown in to Eau Claire, Wisconsin to speak to 1,000 kids that night. And I thought, God almighty, what am I going to say? And it was a very Bible-bashing place. Someone got to me on the campus. I was going for a swim, and she said, do you believe in Jesus? And I said, no, I'm a pantheist. And she just psychologically hit me in the face and said, you'll go to hell. I mean, slammed me. And I thought, this is really queer. So I got out the Bible and I read Luke. Love thine enemy, do good to those who hate you. And then I went by Greyhound bus. I was meant to fly to Paris, but there were no planes. They flew out all the bin Ladens out the next day. Yep. So I caught the Greyhound across the country, and America was swathed in flags. God bless America at every mum and pop store. And I thought, oh my God, they're going to do something terrible. They went into Afghanistan, the poorest country in the world. They could easily have got bin Laden if they wanted to and killed him. That's what you do without giving them a trial. And how many people have been killed in Afghanistan and goes on. And then stupid little George II, he went into Iraq because they had plans for that. One of your generals said, just after 9/11, they had plans before 9/11 to go into 5 countries. Syria, Lebanon, I think, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran. And anyway, Israel's got the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world. Why shouldn't Iran have nuclear weapons? I mean, how dare Israel can neither confirm nor deny she's got nuclear weapons? How dare she? How dare she? And how dare America, lead the nuclear arms race all the way except one, and Russia stupidly, blindly copied and followed. So today, there are about 20,000 hydrogen bombs in the world, right? Russia and America own 94% of them. Oh, but what about Iran? Ooh. What about North Korea? Ooh. Hypocrites. See not the mote in the other person's eye, look instead for the mote in your own eye. It's this country that's determining the fate of the earth. Because your weapons, over 1,000, are still on hair trigger alert, with a 3-minute decision time by Obama to press the button. And if you watch him, always walking behind him is an officer with a suitcase called the football, with nuclear codes to start a nuclear war. When Reagan was shot, they lost the football for 2 days. Yeltsin got to within a couple of seconds of pressing the button in '95 when America launched a weather satellite from Norway, and they were sure that America had launched a first strike from the Trident subs off the coast. The Pentagon had told the Kremlin, but the Kremlin forgot and lost the data. So nuclear war could start by hackers. Over 1,000 hackers a day are hacking into the Pentagon. I've got a 16-year-old grandson, 17. No frontal lobe development yet at all, smart as hell. And they walk through the sitting room, hi Grandma, and you think, what are these kids going to do? One of them's going to be smart enough to hack into the early warning system and think it's a hell of a thing to blow up the world. And I spoke to a computer specialist recently in Minneapolis, I think, and I said, why hasn't it happened? He said, they haven't worked it out yet. How dare America have enough weapons to destroy life on Earth? And how dare Russia? And now you're best friends. What the hell is going on? And no one takes responsibility, and we were scared as hell during the Cold War, but the Cold War ended and we thought, oh well, they'll get rid of the weapons. No, because Clinton got in, who has no backbone. And he left the weapons in place, and we handed him on a silver platter the ability to write an accord, get an Air Force One, fly over to Yeltsin, who is a hardened alcoholic with Korsakoff syndrome and Wernicke's encephalopathy, and totally compliant, and say, okay, Boris, sign here, we're going to abolish nuclear weapons. And he would have. So if we're blown up tonight, and I don't know if NPR still has this thing, ooh, we're just testing the emergency broadcasting system. They still play it? Yeah, well, it means, run to the nearest fallout shelter, but, you'll be asphyxiated and pressure cooked anyway if you go into a fallout shelter. There are 20 hydrogen bombs targeted on New York as I speak. Robert McNamara and I wrote a piece for the LA Times about it. And no one's talking about it. It's like a mass psychosis, a nuclear psychosis. Oh, and we're all into gourmet foods and fashions and manic denial. Displacement activity. If you put rats in a cage and threaten them with a lethal situation, they run away and do something irrelevant to that which threatens them. And then we've got global warming. There's no evidence to me that this country is going to do a goddamn thing about it. People driving their kids to ballet in tanks, using, 3 gallons to the mile. It's obscene. Obama's got no backbone either. What a disappointment. And you're the country that will determine the fate of the earth, because we all emulate you because you put out awful advertising all over the world. And it's all about coveting thy neighbour's goods. If you just have this thing and this thing, you'll live happily till you die. And what is it, 30% Americans are on antidepressants? Because the only way to make yourself happy is to serve others. Right? I'm never happier than when I've spent a day in my clinic with my dying children, counselling the parents and helping the children. I drive home desperately hungry, desperately tired and deeply satisfied. We're here to serve. And we can save the world. We can save the world from global warming. We can close down all the reactors. If we decide and we get out like the people in Wisconsin did, sitting at your computer does nothing. Got to use your bodies. Do we love our Do we love our grandchildren enough? Can we look them in the eye and saying, I'm doing everything I can for your future? Why even immunise our children or give them good medical care or educate them when they do not have a future? Because the way we're going, it's going to be 6 degrees centigrade hotter by the end of the century. We can't survive that. We'll die. Are we an evolutionary aberrant, planning to blow ourselves up and 30 million other species? Or produce epidemics of cancer, leukemia and genetic disease in the rest of time from our radioactive waste? Or having a nuclear war? And I'm going to show you one last thing for you to understand. You've got 14 Trident submarines. On each Trident submarine are 24 missiles. On each missile are 8 hydrogen bombs. They're called passengers. And the missiles are called bombs. So when they're launched, they go into space and then they drop their passengers off at certain points and each bomb lands accurately on target. But they're not good enough. America wants to spend $400 billion more on weapons. You've got to close down that Pentagon. Close it down. Close it down. Talk about national security. What's national security when people are dying because they can't get medical care? I'm nearly finished. 40% of bankruptcies are 50% are from medical stuff that people can't pay. So I need 5 volunteers, young ones. You. That's enough. Come up on the stage. This is a Trident submarine. Just come up. And on each quarto page, each page represents a missile. And each of those black things are hydrogen bombs, much larger than the Hiroshima bomb, much, by orders of magnitude. 8 hydrogen bombs, 24 missiles. And this is a Trident. And they're ploughing the seas silently every minute of every day, ready to launch. And a captain could launch without negotiating with the Pentagon.
How many Hiroshimas is that?
What?
How many Hiroshimas?
No, they're much, much bigger than Hiroshima. They're hydrogen bombs. I can't remember how many times larger, but very much larger. One of these would decimate a city, cause a firestorm of 3,000 square miles. So only one of these on Boston would wipe Boston out. There are only 250 cities in the Northern Hemisphere. They're all targeted. All your towns greater than 50,000 are targeted. All your universities, your industries are all targeted. Yeah, but Russia's got the same number and they target you. You target China since the Cold War ended, and Russia, and they target Europe, Britain, Australia, Canada and you. Tit for tat. Okay, that's the end. There is no more. Thank you.